All right, so this is a suggestion via Discord. The name of the video is just announced. NYC starting to deport migrants. Oh, really? All right. Name of the channel that this video is coming from is called NYC Uncovered. The link will be in the description. Let's jump into it.
A migrant from Venezuela is facing charges accused of attacking and assaulting women.
One of those attacks leading to an alert from the UIC campus.
2 suspected squatters arrested for a woman in her New York City apartment stuffing her body in a duffel bag and stealing her car.
So there's everything.
A gang of recent migrants from Venezuela terrorized New Yorkers, robbing them violently and then hacking their phones.
New York City is now plagued with a surge of criminal activities. The once bustling city is now turning into a playground for heinous crimes, from robbery sprees to gang-related activities, from taking people's lives to police altercations. The unrest in New York City seems endless. First, let's begin with a heinous crime that happened on Tuesday.
The woman whose remains were found in a duffel bag inside a Kips Bay apartment was by squatters who were staying illegally in the unit.
A 52-year-old Nadia Vitels was discovered deceased in a closet at her late mother's 19th floor apartment on East 31st Street. 2 fugitive squatters were apprehended for the atrocious act. The apartment had been unoccupied for about 3 to 4 months, and Vitels, who had recently returned from Spain, had visited to prepare it for a family friend. After bringing some items to the apartment to get it ready, she met 2 fugitives inside. It was at that moment that the 2 individuals brutally assaulted her until she lost consciousness. Her 23-year-old son was expecting her text, but didn't receive any, and her phone too wasn't going through. 2 days later, he contacted the authorities for a wellness check, and while waiting for the police to arrive, he entered the apartment with Jean Pompey. As he was leaving the apartment after looking around, the son noticed a duffel bag in the closet by the door with a coat on top of it, and a foot protruding from it, according to sources. Vitels' body was discovered inside, showing signs of blunt force trauma to the head, multiple facial fractures, a brain bleed, and 2 broken ribs. The suspects were captured on surveillance video fleeing the apartment after their hideous crime and driving away in the deceased woman's Lexus SUV.
Guys, that is absolutely frightening. Okay? That's probably the worst case scenario for like any type of like squatting incidents here, guys. And then your kid finds you? Oh no.
After their hideous crime and driving away in the deceased woman's Lexus SUV. They escaped through New Jersey into Pennsylvania, where they crashed the SUV in Lower Paxton Township. Upon running the license plate number, the police discovered that it belonged to 52-year-old Vittel, Hallie Tajada, 19 years old, and Kensley Alston, 18 years old, were eventually charged with driving a stolen car and will also face charges for the tragic demise of 52-year-old Nadia Vitels. This is just one of the numerous crimes that have been committed in New York City. On Tuesday in Brooklyn, Jason Sanchez, a mere 26 years old, was apprehended by cops who swiftly responded to a robbery in progress in Greenpoint. The victim, a 50-year-old man, had fallen victim to Sanchez's brutal assault as he mercilessly struck him on the head with a rock and then attempted to snatch away the man's wallet. However, the authorities wasted no time in taking Sanchez into custody, ensuring that he would face the consequences of his heinous actions, charged with attempted robbery, assault, and criminal possession of a weapon. However, an investigation led the authorities to Sanchez's last known address, a shelter situated near the very scene of the crime. Mayor Eric Adams called for improved collaboration between the NYPD and ICE last week in response to the most recent crime allegedly involving a migrant on Tuesday. Adams suggested that the city should consider reaching out to the federal agency regarding migrants accused of serious offenses. However, these migrants seem to cherish the act of causing havoc.
Surveillance video shows a suspect on a scooter fleeing a 62-year-old woman to the ground in Brooklyn last month while stealing her purse.
That was a video of a 52-year-old woman getting dragged across the sidewalk.
Guys, get out of New York City. Get out of Chicago. Get out of San Diego. Get out of Atlanta. Get out of Miami. Bro, listen, every single major city is going to be afflicted by this within the next decade. Every single one. With the amount of people that are actually coming, that are basically just walking through our border currently. Yeah, and they're all trying to go to every single major city. My advice would be, Get out of those major cities and stop paying taxes in these major cities, because your tax dollars are basically funding the majority of this nonsense that's going on here, guys.
And her body having a collision with that pole during an ongoing robbery by these suspected migrants. She was robbed of her credit cards, her phone, her bag, keys, ID, and $60 cash. This was considered a travesty by a lot of New Yorkers who opened their city and constructed shelters for these migrants. That's why on Monday, the 5th of February, police arrested the migrants who were suspected to be part of a larger criminal network of people carrying out these robberies. In apartment 2790 Bronx Park East, the apartment was described as a stash house for the stolen goods, and the NYPD was accompanied by Mayor Eric Adams as they made multiple arrests at the site. A lot of the criminals are allegedly from Venezuela, and it seems they were able to organize a sophisticated criminal network that has baffled a lot of New York City police officers. The arrested migrants are expected to be charged with multiple robberies and grand larceny. Police say that the suspects are allegedly connected to up to 62 incidents of snatching. And the way their operations typically go is that they steal the possessions of New Yorkers, mostly older women, and they take their wallets and cell phones, and then they hack into their banking and payment apps, particularly Apple Pay. And then they make fraudulent purchases with money in places like the US or countries in South America. After that, they send the phones to countries like Colombia, where they get repurposed and resold in those countries.
This department, this agency is not going to tolerate that. We will find you. Anyone that commits any act of harm against one of our New Yorkers, we're going to find you, we're going to arrest you, we're going to bring you to justice.
Police also say that...
But bro, the majority of the people that are committing some of these crimes that are basically migrant-based do not speak the language you just basically spoke.
Act of harm against...
So did they actually get the warning, bro? Do they care about this warning?
One of our New Yorkers, we're going to find you, we're going to arrest you, we're going to bring you to justice.
Police also say that the suspected ringleader, 30-year-old Mr. Victor Pera, is still at large. Victor Pera is a Venezuelan male who came into the country in 2023, and since then he has carried out a series of grand larcenies. He was even before a judge in December last year, but for some reason, he was released. And yet it seems...
A lot of times when they're released, it just means that they are completely full. They're too full to basically hold them. And from a lot of the things that we've been seeing lately, I guess all you have to do is kind of be a migrant and they'll kind of let you go, specifically if they're full.
Seems that he is not done with his corruption. The NYPD has stated that these robberies often begin with message blasts from Para, with the messages reading, "I have money.
Go get it.
I'm available.
Yeah.
Go get them." Once the messages are received, the criminals take to the streets and they begin snatching. It is said that Para employs a tech guy who breaks into these phones, and he is then able to access the financial information of their victims. So far, this criminal pattern has earned these individuals hundreds of thousands of dollars in stolen property. Police recovered about 22 stolen phones from these criminals and the identity of Para, and they're hoping to make more arrests as time proceeds. The most reprehensible fact about all these is the fact that these thieves live in migrant shelters, and they use these shelters as camouflage. After obtaining these scooters from innocent New Yorkers, they carry out the robberies under the cover of night at various neighborhoods, and then they return to the shelters during the day. What's worse than that is that these individuals are known as ghost criminals. These are individuals who have no relevant data tied to the American systems. They're ghosts, they have no cell phones, at least not registered to the states, no photos, no driver's license, and not even as much as a social media handle, meaning they're...
And guys, the thing about the concept of a ghost criminal, let me go ahead and flush this out a little bit. A lot of times when that word is used, or the term or phrase is used itself, it references people who have come into the United States of America. They just went to some type of somewhere where they said that they were looking to claim asylum. They may have given the wrong information, the wrong name. So when they actually do try to kind of check up on who that person is, the government has no idea who they are, and then now that person can no longer be found, right? And that person, in fact, has no record, and also no record in the United States of America. Then all of a sudden, he is, by all definitions, a ghost criminal. You have no idea his past.
They're not...
You have no idea who he is.
...going to show up in facial recognition software. And even if they do, there's no data to match them up with. Police even have trouble getting the right names and dates of birth of these criminals, making investigations all the more challenging. Police Commissioner Edward Caban further stated that these criminals do not represent the vast majority of immigrants who come into the city in search of a better life.
Right. It makes up probably 10%. If that. How about this? That may be too high. Let's just say 2-3%. And these 2-3% are making all of the migrants look absolutely terrible to the rest of the country, specifically if you've never been around anything like this, right? So yeah, of course, there are some people who think that every single person that is coming is absolutely like these people that are being referred to here. No, it's 2-3%, but they are so bad, all right? They are so bad that we keep hearing brand new stories about the craziness that these guys are doing and then consistently being released.
And further stated that he and his police officers are doing everything in their power to stop these patterns of robberies, perpetuated by immigrants all over the city.
Prosecutors say that suspect has a pattern of following women from train stations and attacking them from behind.
A Venezuelan migrant, identified as Elvis Hernandez Pernalet, has been accused of committing a heinous crime on the University of Illinois Chicago, UIC campus. This incident occurred earlier this month when Hernandez Pernalet, also known as Luis Guevara, allegedly followed a woman from the UIC Halsted Blue Line station. Disturbingly, Hernandez Pernalet not only assaulted the woman but also stole her belongings before fleeing the scene. It is important to note that the victim was not affiliated with UIC as a student or staff member. Shockingly, this was not an isolated incident.
Okay.
Court documents reveal that Hernandez Pernalet attacked another woman after following her from a train station. As a result, he now faces charges of criminal abuse, aggravated battery and strangulation, robbery, and attempted robbery. In a separate incident on March 9th, Hernandez Pernalet was allegedly caught on camera stealing merchandise from a TJ Maxx store. He brazenly placed the stolen items into his backpack before leaving the premises.
But the assault prompted a campus-wide alert.
We have individuals in our city who are not completely vetted. We don't know their criminal history. We don't know what they're capable of.
It doesn't end there. Jesus Alejandro Rivas Figueroa, a 15-year-old boy, was caught shoplifting at a sporting store in Times Square. He was with two other people when a store employee noticed them holding a bag filled with clothes and sneakers.
The shooting in Times Square. He is now being charged as an adult.
The employee asked them for a receipt, but they couldn't provide one. So the employee took the bag back and started asking the boys more questions. This is when he made a bad move. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the teenager dressed in all white, Rivas Figueroa, takes out a powerful .45 caliber handgun and shoots at the police officer. Shockingly, he also fires at the crowd. Thankfully, the officer narrowly avoids getting hit by the bullet.
Yeah, but a Brazilian national got hit in the leg.
However, tragically, a 37-year-old Brazilian tourist who was patiently waiting in line to purchase sneakers gets struck in the knee and suffers injuries. The entire crowd becomes terrified and pandemonium breaks loose inside the store as people start running and hiding in fear. He was able to escape from the police on 6th Avenue, but before he got away, he shot at the police officer who was chasing him. This was really dangerous because there were a lot of people around, and any of those bullets could have seriously hurt or even an innocent person. That's why the police officer couldn't shoot back at the 15-year-old, because there were too many people nearby. He ran to a subway station and went back to his house, where he and his mom started packing up their stuff to leave the city. The criminal was found hiding in a closet at a residence in Yonkers, New York. Unfortunately, this isn't the first time Rivas Figueroa has committed a crime in New York City. He is believed to have been part of an armed robbery in the Bronx on Jan 27th, and also the incident on Jan 25th, where gunshots were fired at a park on 45th Street. He faced multiple charges as an adult and was detained without bail. Even the police officers themselves aren't safe from these criminals. A couple of weeks ago, 2 NYPD officers were assaulted when they attempted to arrest a migrant suspected of wrongdoing. You might ask yourself, what's going to happen to these criminals?
They're going to be released. That's what's going to happen. They're going to be released.
At the very least, the people who commit these crimes should be deported, right?
Should be.
Well, that's not the case. The federal government's ability to deport migrants is limited, says Kenneth Janello, who oversees the Department of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, also known as ICE. Janello says that ever since the New York Council voted on New York as a sanctuary city in 2014 and passed New York's sanctuary city laws, the partnership between ICE and the city was next to non-existent. And now the people who are supposed to be detaining and deporting these individuals in New York City are no longer contacted when immigrants commit a crime or are accused of one. They find out along with everyone else through the media. So to do their jobs, they have to head into the streets to investigate. But that doesn't yield much results.
Being able to take custody of these individuals in the confines of a jail or in the confines of a precinct, we now have to go out into the community and the streets.
With these recent occurrences going on in the city, New Yorkers are scared not just for themselves, but for their elderly population.
Yep.
As we saw in the video, most of the people being targeted are women, both young and elderly. With these developments, New Yorkers fear for the safety of themselves, their mothers, and their grandmothers with many outright saying that they're going to leave the city. Police continue their investigations as more arrests are expected to be made and more suspects detained, given the ongoing investigation and prevalence of the use of scooters and mopeds to perpetuate crimes in New York. Police raided migrant shelters and confiscated these scooters from the shelters, many of which were unregistered and allegedly stolen while also bearing stolen plates.
The first order of business here was they went for the bikes. Dozens of bikes without registrations, some with plates stolen off other bikes somewhere in the city.
Police continue to comb throughout Manhattan to verify scooters and confiscate any that seem to be unsavory in hopes of reducing the use of scooters and the active role they play in these robberies. Mayor Adams said that as of last year, the police seized about 2,400 scooters, which is about a 74% increase than the year before that. And now it seems that the numbers are only going to get bigger.
It comes after this melee near Times Square over the weekend when nearly a dozen men, believed sources say to be asylum seekers, attacked two police officers.
Oh my. Guys, it never ends. The thing about it is, guys, the fact that they're specifically targeting like the elderly, specifically like elderly, like women, I would hate, for anyone that I know, specifically that age group, to be walking through Manhattan and be accosted thoroughly by these individuals, exclusively for the purpose of just draining their bank accounts, right? Harming them and then draining their bank. Guys, that's just the wildest thing in the world to me, bro. I think that the best thing going forward is to obviously get the people that have voted for these things, to get them out of office immediately. That can hopefully make this stop or slow down at the very least. And if that cannot happen, it's just not worth being in these gigantic cities any longer, guys. It just isn't. I'm glad I left a very long time ago, seriously. But get out of New York City. Run from this place, bro. Because think about this here. Whatever you are paying currently to live in Manhattan, you would live so much better anywhere else for that same amount of money, bro. I'm just being honest. Anywhere else. You can live anywhere. New York and London, two of the most expensive cities in the world to live in. Move. Right? Generally, when things like this happen, and I generally tell people to move, right? People in the comments are like, it's too expensive to move. How can you tell people to just leave? But listen, we're talking about people that are in the most expensive city in the United States of America. They can move, okay? It's time to go. But keep your politics there, because the exact thing that basically voted that was voted in, you voted for living there. You thought that was going to be a great idea, right? But instead, look at it. So the fact is, I'm not sure you should be trusted with your vote anymore. You can't say that in 2024. You get what I'm saying. But all right, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. And again, name of the channel is NYC Uncovered. Link in the description. Guys, before we go, are you guys subscribed to the other channels? Logical Movie Reviews with Mr. L. Boyd, along with Mr. L. Boyd Music. Both are found in the description. Check it out.